Hi, it's Sean D'Souza from psychotactics.com. Today we're going to cover this topic called the yes and yes factor. So what is this yes and yes factor? The yes and yes factor is a factor of pricing. Understanding how you can create your prices, how to increase your prices, enables you to get better prices for your products and your services, but it also helps the customer. Amazingly, your customer wants a choice. And the yes and yes factor enables your customers to get that choice and for you to give that choice and for you to get higher profits. Sounds like a dream? Well, let's find out exactly how the yes and yes factor works. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover the concept of the yes and yes factor, but only the introduction. The introduction will show you exactly what is the yes and yes factor, and then we'll start to look at why the yes and yes factor works. And finally, what we'll start to look at are the 5 elements that you need to put in a price grid. Now, a price grid is a form offline or online, where you have the buy now button. So you're going to start to look at those factors, and we'll start to look at how all of this works. So first, let's go to the top. Let's start off with what is the yes and yes factor. Now, any product, now in this case, Adobe Creative Suite 4 is a product. And when you're selling a product, you're just selling a product. You're selling a service, you're just selling a service. Instantly, we can change these dimensions. Instantly, we can change the effect of how the customer behaves by adding one more factor. So we add a product and a bonus. What is that bonus? The bonus could be a workshop. It could be a CD. It could be just about anything, training or special features. When you add that simple bonus, automatically, look what happens in your brain as a customer. Which one do you want? Do you want the one on the left, which is the regular, or the one on the right, which is the premium? Almost instantly, you want to blow away the regular. You don't want it. You want the premium. Understand what's happening. You don't know the difference between the regular and the premium in terms of price. Still, you want it. You just want the premium. You don't know the difference in the benefits or the features. You just don't know the benefits and features. You probably haven't even used all the benefits and features from the previous versions, yet you want the premium version, and you want it now. You don't want the regular version, no matter how great it is. And this is the basis of the yes and yes factor. Whether you're selling a refrigerator or you're selling t-shirts or microwaves or computers or just about anything, what happens is we're always selling the product as is, and customers want a choice, and we're not giving them that choice. So here's how the bonus works. The bonus works in a very simple concept, and that is a factor of just adding a little bit. And this little bit here is, as you can see, there's a coffee, iced coffee on the left, iced coffee on the right. What's the difference? The difference is simply that muffin, that delicious chocolate brownie muffin. And that makes a big difference because instantly the customer wants the one on the right. The bonus acts as that attractor. And what's interesting is that customers were willing to pay for the upgrade. We're willing to pay for that muffin as long as it's not full price. So if the muffin costs $3, then we're willing to pay $1.50 for that muffin as the bonus. Now, we do this because we want more value. That's the most obvious thing of all. And so you start to see that you can change the whole mindset of a customer in an instant by just adding a bonus. Our mind is absolutely set on the bonus. We're not interested in the regular and premium, which is why in the first instance, if you've got a product or service, you want to have a concept of the regular and the premium. And this takes us to the core concept of the yes and yes. What is the yes and yes? The yes and yes is simply an option, which means that you've got a regular and a premium. It's not a yes and no. What's a yes and no? If you've got a product and it's just a product, well, what you've got is a yes and no, because you're saying, I've got a product and you can buy the product, or you can buy the product, or you can buy the product. And you sound like a robot because you're not giving the customer a choice. And yet, when you change that format and you add in a little bit, what you're starting to give is a regular and a premium, and you add in a little bonus. That addition of a bonus starts to create what is a yes and yes instead of a yes and no. What's also really, really interesting is that price becomes secondary. So once a customer decides they want to buy your product or service, they have to decide that they want to buy a product or a service. You can't just jump in and say, hey, I'm going to increase the prices. Prices become secondary because they don't want to buy the regular. They only want to buy the premium. So it's very interesting. And when we provide the price structure, when it's done right, it's amazing how customers will always choose the premium and never the regular. So let's just do a quick summary. So we instantly want the bonus no matter what the product or service. The second thing is the difference between yes and yes and yes and no. Yes and yes is when we get a choice as customers. Yes and no is when we've got no choice. And most products, most services are usually just yes and no. So you go onto any website and it's just this option and that's it. You don't get a second option. And once the customer is ready to buy, they want to buy a premium option. So price becomes secondary. And yet we don't use this concept of price and premiums and yes and yes. So that takes us to the second section, which is how to construct a yes and yes. We're going to look at how to construct it so that we get it right. Now, the construction of yes and yes works on a very simple concept. You're working with the very same product. So as you can see, these products are identical. This iced coffee on the left looks exactly like the iced coffee on the right. And so I want to bring this to your notice because people make a mistake. You notice this is coffee on the left and coffee on the right. They're the same product, but they're not the same product. When you change the parameter, any parameter, you are changing the product itself. So you can't have a different type of coffee. On the other hand, you can't have a different type of size. So when you look at it, you start to see a different size. Well, the coffee has to be exactly the same. The product has to be exactly the same. So you start off with the core product being exactly the same before you move ahead. So this is the most important thing. Step one is that the product needs to be exactly the same in every respect. It's a duplicate. It's a twin of the other product. So that's step one. Step two is we start to add a bonus. So exactly the same, and then we add the bonus. And suddenly you start to see this one's not exactly the same as this one. So the one on the right is now more magnetic, more desirable, and that's a desirable bonus. So we add a desirable bonus, then we start to add a price at step three. And you can start to see that's $4 and that's $4.50. But what's the value? The value of this coffee, the iced coffee on the left, is $4. The value of the coffee on the right is $6. Why? Because you know the cost of the muffin. You can do the math. It's not a problem. You can work it out. And so which one becomes more desirable? Instantly, the one on the right becomes more desirable. It becomes desirable because we know that we're buying the value, not necessarily price. We've already decided to buy the coffee. It's not like we're going, oh, let's step into the store and buy a coffee. No, we've already decided. Once we're sitting there, what we want is the most desirable option. And the one that gives us the most value is the one that we want. And so we start to see this basic versus premium with any product or service. As soon as you start to give an add-on, that's the one I want. I don't want to look at the basic. I want to look at the premium. So you can see in this website strategy masterclass, there's a basic option and a premium option. Guess what everyone takes? This is more important because, for instance, this one is a workshop. Now, if you were to pay for a workshop, what would you want? Technically, the answer is you would want a workshop, right? So you would travel and you would stay at a hotel and you do all that stuff because you wanted a workshop. And if you ask customers, what did you buy or what did you set out to buy? And they say the workshop. And yet most customers, and I say most when I mean 98% or 99%, almost every single customer will buy the premium. Why? Because they want that added bonus. Even though they're saying they want the basic, they're buying the premium. That's how we are as human beings. We want more value for less. To get this more value for less, we have to actually build a checklist because we have to get this right. So what is on that checklist? We've already gone through it before. Well, the first thing, it has to be a clear upgrade. As you can see, there's a clear upgrade between the coffee here and the coffee and the muffin there. Secondly, there's a very clear visual or desired bonus. So you can start to see a desired bonus here. That's the one thing that makes us choose option 2 instead of option 1. Then a visual difference. You can actually see that they're different from each other. The fourth is the price difference. Now, there's got to be a price difference, $4 and $4.50 or whatever the price difference. And finally, something that we don't see here is the call to action. But on every product or service, you need to have a call to action, a buy now button or whatever. So you've got this yes and yes checklist, which is clear upgrade, desired bonus, visual difference, price difference, and call to action. And it doesn't matter what product or service. This is a workshop, for instance. It's the same thing. Clear upgrade, desired bonus, visual difference, price difference, call to action. What we'll start to see is how we're going to implement these concepts. And you want to make a note of this because now we're going to create a price grid. And you're going to learn exactly how to create this price grid. So what is a price grid? A price grid is what you see on most websites, what you see on most offline forums. What you don't see in a price grid is you don't see a yes and yes. You don't see a regular and you don't see a premium. That's what we're going to create now. We're going to take the concepts that you've already learned and we're going to apply them right here. The first checklist item is a clear upgrade. Can we see a clear upgrade? Absolutely. That's the regular and that one's a premium. So we can see a clear upgrade. That's checklist number 1. We look at the element number 2, which is the desired bonus. Where's the desired bonus? Well, they're all over here. This whole section are the bonuses. But the really desired bonuses are sitting right here, which is 3 critiques by Sean, which is worth $1,500, and article status. So when you're doing something like an article writing course, what you really want is a factor of how am I going to get someone to critique it? How am I going to get, how am I going to start an article? The difference is this bonus that you're going to get. So you almost want to start creating the most desired bonus at the start because that's what people are buying when they're buying the premium. And people buy the premium. You can see this density of, tick marks here. And it's important to have tick marks and not crosses or anything. Don't try to be too creative here. And now let's look at the visual difference. You can start to see a visual difference here between regular and premium. So almost instantly your eye picks it up and this one is more, I want the second option. This takes us to the 4th, which is the price difference. Now you can start to see the price here. $14.95, $16.95. Which one would the customer take? Your logic would tell you that they would take the $14.95, but that's not how a customer behaves. That's not how you and I behave. We look at $16.95 and we start to get the value. So we start to do all the adding up. We go, okay, we're going to buy now, which is element number 5. We're going to buy. But what kind of value are we getting? And we see in that step number 4, this is $14.95 and this is $16.95. But look at the value. For $14.95, I'm getting goods worth $14.95. For $16.95, I get the add-on bonuses. When I add them all up, they come to $3,495. Which one do you want? For $200, for a difference of $200, I'm getting a difference of approximately $1,800. Which one do you want? It's a silly question, isn't it? Almost instantly you want that option. And that's what most customers take. Very few customers will go for the regular. Very few. I mean, really, really so few that it's almost pathetic. The only reason you've got the regular and the premium is because you want to give a choice. So this moves on to the objections, which is, wait a second, I've got the yes and yes, but I've seen the yes, yes, and yes. What is the yes, yes, and yes? Well, you have 3 options. You remember? Regular, basic, premium, whatever. You've got 3 options that you see sometimes. And first it starts off with the really basic stuff, then the add-on stuff, and then the real goody stuff. So why not have 3 options? I mean, you've seen 3 options everywhere. There are 3 reasons why you shouldn't. The first thing is that what is this 3 option based on? It's based on a factor of price. So if you get the best price for your product, then why would you want to have an additional price? Because it creates more work. You have to put in a price for the first one, a price for the second one, a price for the third one. And not only do you have to put a price for the first, second, and third one, if you've got just one product, it's already a lot of work because you've got to create the whole shopping cart and all the things behind the shopping cart. You have to, set up the prices, make sure they're all right. When you've got multiple products, you're now creating a nightmare because now you've got 3 options instead of 2 options for everything. So you've just increased your work by, 50%, just for nothing. You're still getting the same price that you wanted, but you've increased your work by 50%. And the third thing is that you've got these products, multiple products or services. Well, you're going to increase your prices at some point in time. So you have to increase the prices of all of them, 1, 2, and 3, all over again. And again, it's a nightmare. So it's really not worth having all the 3 options when 2 options can do the job and do it consistently well. And in some cases, even better than the 3 options. The second objection is one of bonuses versus discounts. Lots of people give discounts, and discounts are a complete drain on the money. So here you've got something and you go, oh no, I won't give a bonus, I'll give a discount. What discounts do is they drain the profit. Instantly you're giving away money. So if you give away 25% discount, you're actually giving away 25% of your profit. Bonuses don't act that way. Bonuses cost less than profit. So for instance, this muffin may not cost you a lot of money. It might cost you very little money to produce. And discounts may start to cheapen the core product. You're telling me that this coffee is not worth the price that you're charging. And customers learn that. The third thing that customers are very concerned about, or you as a supplier are very concerned about, is will customers get wise to this? Because they'll go, hey, this is the regular and this is the premium. Well, I'm going to take the regular. That's not how the human brain works. The human brain is looking at this bonus, and it requires to know what the value of that bonus. And once it knows the value, it sees the difference between the two and chooses the premium. So it doesn't matter whether your customers know of the system that you're using or not. They will still choose the premium, provided you structure the price right. So just to summarize, what we do. First, we started with the bonus. We saw that it was critical to create the yes and yes. Then after that, we started to look at why the yes and yes factor works, and this whole factor of value, that we want more for less. And finally, we looked at the price grid and the yes and yes factor. We started to look at those 5 elements that made the price grid so powerful. So what are we going to do from here? Well, I've done my bit. Now it's time for you to do your bit. Do one thing. What should you do today? The first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you've got your checklist ready. So you've got those checklists of 5 steps, and then you're going to create a price grid. So next in the series is very simple. 5 reasons why price grids go off course. Now I've shown you exactly what you need to do. You wouldn't think that someone would go off course. Well, they do. And there are 5 reasons why they go off course. We're going to find out exactly how that works. This has been brought to you by psychotactics.com.
If you would like to learn how you can improve your business, go to psychotactics.com, where you can get more information on audio, video, and in ebooks. Psychotactics also has tons of very helpful free articles that will help you understand the enigma of the human brain and the psychological triggers that cause your customer to buy. Go to psychotactics.com today. You'll be amazed at what you'll find there.
That's me, Sean D'Souza, signing off, and see you in the next video.